channel. Hey there, how's everybody doing? Now you know that's not how we do it here. That is true, my friend. I'm sorry. Hold on. What is up, folks? Welcome back to Ever So Slight. Jorge Anito here. Thanks for stopping by, and again, welcome back. I never have really cared much for the spread call, convincing controls, anything where you're calling cards. I never have. You know, it's just not my cup of tea. I don't know. Shoot me. Okay. However, just because I don't care for a specific sleight or a move doesn't mean that I disregard them altogether, and it surely doesn't mean that I don't practice them, you know. Hence, this video, my top 3 convincing control variations. These are from the greats, the greatest of the greats. We got Tony Chang in here, we got Dan and Dave, yes, the DMB, Ernest Eric / Stephen Hobbs. I'll explain that when we get to it. I'm going to offer a small tutorial, just quick point-by-point brief, how the moves work, the mechanics, very concise, non-exhaustive. We're going to get through this list, and hopefully you'll see why I hold these convincing control variations in such high esteem. So without further ado, let's get into it. So switching to bordered cards, even though I think that borderless, it works probably the best for borderless. It works fine with the bordered, and you'll be able to see pretty easily what's going on with the bordered cards. So coming in at number 3 is Tony Chang's response to the DMB spread control, because by his own admission, he says Dan and Dave's DMB spread control is just too difficult for him to do. I can relate to that. There are some moves that I have a hard time with, the classic palm, you know, being one of them, try as I might. But anyway, this is what he comes up with. So you grab the cards and you go for just in normal spread control fashion, right? You'll get you a spread of about 11 to 15 cards, and you're going to take the selection, which will be in your left hand, push it over. You're going to up jog it, but you're going to carry it under the spread a little bit so that the spread supersedes the selection or goes beyond, right? So typically, when you see this, you might see that right there. Tony Chang suggests going ahead and placing it just a little into the spread. What's essentially happened is you're just going to pull this card straight down as you do the switch. Okay, so starting over, you get a spread about 11 to 15 cards. You get the selection, up jog, push it into the spread, just so that it's into the spread, and you do the get ready, which is preparing for the switch. You push over 2 cards, essentially, because you're going to use the second from top as a gliding point, right? So when you come down, you're essentially going to pull this card straight down and glide this card straight up, right? And that's what he does. That's Tony Chang's variation of the DMB spread control. Not even a variation, his response. So that's coming in at number 2 is Dan and Dave Buck's famous DMB spread control. And just like with Tony Chang's, you're grabbing a spread of about 11 to 15 cards. You want to grab toward the bottom, and this is going to be important because you're essentially going to take this spread and you're going to clip it with pinky and ring finger, right? You're leaving room for this middle finger because it's essentially going to drag the selection diagonally and downward back this way. So if I was to remove all my fingers here, except for the pinky and ring, you'll see that it's clipped. If I let go, it'll all fall. But the important thing is the placement. Grabbing toward the bottom, you're clipping with the pinky and ring at the bottom. And then just like before, you're pushing a selection up jogged into the spread. Now, when you do the switch, what's essentially happening is you're pulling this card downward, like so. Now, from the front, you can't see anything, right? It doesn't get clean and flush with the rest of the cards, but it's definitely covered, right? So for the switching action, this is my slight modification. So when you have the selection pushed over like this, you're getting ready to do the switch. instead of floating the 2 cards out like Tony Chang does, I just simply kind of float one out and I hold it. And when I come down like this and I do the call, I'm essentially thrusting this card out. I'm releasing with the thumb and catching with this packet right here. So kind of like that, right? It's super easy to do. It's super simple. They're coming in at the number 1 spot. This is the best of them all. Ernest Eric's variation, and we're going to see some touches from Stephen Hobbs as well. Stephen Hobbs is a famous underground magician. He has some brilliant work on this. Anyway, let's go ahead and look at what Ernest Eric had to offer. So you'll push the cards over, get you a spread, but instead of grabbing the cards from the bottom like we did kind of with the Tony Changs and the Buck Twins, you're going to want to go for a top grip. And you want your index finger to kind of be up here by this pip and indice. That's going to be important because your index is going to be a pivot point for the selection. Let me just show you what's happening here. So when I grab the card, and let's say I grab the selection, what's happening here is the middle finger will pull this card under in a longitudinal fashion, right? So from the bottom, you won't be able to see anything. You'll get your card up jogged. Now you could do one of 2 things. You can either rotate this card the right way around, or you could push it into essentially a classic palm, right? Which Ernest Eric, he liked to hand the deck out for whatever as he went away and, you know, produced the card or what have you. So we'll go ahead and go over this real quick, and we'll talk about what Stephen Hobbs had to say about this. So you're pushing over, and this is very important. Stephen says to make sure you're pressing down on this. You want to press the air out of these cards. That's going to help when you do the actual call. It's going to make sure you get a clean control. So push over about 11 to 15 cards. And it's helpful if you go ahead and get a block like this and then resume the spread, right? So you have a block of cards. What I mean by that, you push so many over, you block them up and come in for another spread, and then you're pushing all the air out. Stephen Hobbs says this is helpful for the sleight. So you do all that. Once you're in this position, you push over a selection. You just push it over flush with the spread. You show the card. Now when you come down, that's when you're calling. You're taking this card to the uttermost left and up jogging it. Now when you're doing that, like I said, you can, your index finger is staying where it is for the moment, and you're using your ring finger and middle finger, and you're kind of going in 2 different directions. So I'm pushing forward with the ring, and I'm pulling back with the middle finger. Sorry, I think you probably understood what I was saying there. So you get the selection, you'll get it called, and to get it back, you just pull back with the middle, push forward with the ring, and it should slide right into position. But if you don't want to do that, you could leave it just the way it is. Get your up jog card like so. Resume. Once you're in this position, you're pushing everything flush, and you're going ahead and getting this thing ready to go right into palm. So it looks like this. Now what Stephen Hobbs does, and I cannot do this, but I'm going to go ahead and show you because I think this is the coolest thing in the world, is he'll go ahead and get the up jog card, or get the selection up jogged, and he'll do the switch one-handed. So what he's doing is he's calling this, and he's taking his index and pushing that forward. This is one of the most brilliant things I've ever seen. But, like I said, I'm not that fluid with this move, but that is Stephen Hobbs' little touches. Let me know in the comments what you think, if this is worthwhile, how you feel about it. You know, are spread calls, convincing controls something that you're fancy? Let me know in the comments below. I appreciate all feedback, all the support, all the love. If you're new here, do me a solid. Go ahead and subscribe. Hit the like, leave a comment, hit the dislike. If you don't care for the video, that's fine too. Appreciate you all. Be blessed. Wow.